Let me tell you about the time an HOA president named Karen tried to start a war with me over a road and ended up destroying her own kingdom. I mean, picture this. You buy a ranch settle in with a cup of coffee, look out over your 50 acres of hard-won peace, and then bam, here comes Karen marching up your porch at 7:30 in the morning, clipboard in hand, demanding to know why you're trespassing on your own land. Yeah, you heard that right. Get off my road right now, she screamed, standing there in her navy blazer like she was running for local dictator. Never mind the fact that I'd bought this property fair and square or that my deed was ironclad. Karen didn't care. She declared I was breaking community standards by existing, basically. Said she'd have me arrested for using a road that literally ran across my own front yard. The audacity would have been funny if it weren't so dangerous. But here's what Karen didn't know, the very thing that would make this whole fiasco legendary. My ranch wasn't just a slice of countryside. It sat right between her gated community and the rest of civilization. No back roads, no secret trails, one road in, one road out, and I owned every inch of it. 200 families, their jobs, their schools, their Amazon deliveries, all dependent on my little patch of Texas dirt. You want to talk about leverage? I had the keys to their whole world. The real estate agent called it a unique geographical opportunity. Understatement of the year. The original 1847 easement agreement let them use the road, sure, but only as long as they didn't interfere with my property rights. Any substantial hassle, and I could revoke it. Most people would run screaming from a deal that messy. Me, I saw an insurance policy nobody else could buy. Karen was on my porch less than 72 hours after closing. No, hello, no welcome to the neighborhood, just a list of demands about paint colors and noise ordinances and get this fence height. I sipped my coffee, leaned in the doorway, and just let her rattle on. Finally, I said, "Ma'am, I'm not part of your HOA. You're standing on my private property." She barely blinked. Flipped through her paperwork, babbled about community infrastructure and standards. Claimed the road was theirs because the HOA paid for security patrols and drainage. See, I'm a real estate lawyer by trade. 25 years, thank you very much. So I asked her, "Have you reviewed the original easement agreement from 1847? She laughed right in my face. "I don't need 19th century documents to understand property law." That's when I realized Karen had been running her little fiefdom for so long, she thought nobody could say no to her. She didn't care about facts, she cared about control. So I asked if she knew those easement rights could be revoked. She looked me dead in the eye and said, "Absolutely not. You cannot cut off an entire neighborhood." That smile I gave her cold as January. "Would you like to test that theory?" I said. Karen's eyes flashed, but she wouldn't back down. Instead, she barked about her community having lawyers and connections, accused me of threatening 200 families. "Not threatening, just clarifying reality," I said, and ended the conversation. You could see her blood pressure spike. She expected compliance, found resistance instead. She stomped off to her car, muttering, "This is far from over." Yeah, I figured as much. But as her tail lights faded down my drive, I couldn't help but marvel. After 15 years of lording over her HOA, she'd finally picked a fight with the one person who could pull the plug on her whole operation. Did she back off? Not even close. The next morning, security cameras caught Karen and her board members prowling my fence line, measuring posts, snapping photos, muttering into clipboards like they were prepping for a CSI episode. By noon, she'd filed bogus complaints with the county unauthorized agricultural activity nuisance livestock, never mind that my cattle hadn't even arrived yet. Then came the neighborhood patrols. Volunteers, walkie-talkies, telephoto lenses, sitting in folding chairs like they were tailgating for the HOA Super Bowl. And of course, security cameras went up along her side of the property, all pointed straight at my house and barn. Apparently, privacy only mattered when Karen wasn't feeling threatened. But her masterpiece. She put up makeshift security checkpoints on my road manned by rent-a-cops with instructions, "No sticker, no entry." Imagine rolling up to your own driveway, and being told by a guy in a polyester uniform you can't go home because you don't have an HOA sticker. I almost laughed, but instead I pulled out my phone and called the county planning department. Somebody's put unauthorized checkpoints on my legal easement, I said. Sarah from planning was all business. Private parties can't control access. We'll send an inspector. I smiled at the guard and said, "You might want to call Karen. She's about to have a bigger problem than my missing sticker." Karen, meanwhile, launched a PR war, painted herself as a heroic underdog. On Nextdoor, accused me of bullying, whipped up the residents with claims about community values. But while she played social media martyr, I gathered evidence. Every checkpoint, every camera, every over-the-top complaint became a brick in the legal wall I was building. The county inspector showed up right on time, reviewed the paperwork, and asked the question Karen couldn't answer. "Do you have legal authority to control access on this private easement?" Her smile faltered. "We maintain the road. We pay for security. That doesn't grant you control," he replied, handed her a violation notice, and gave her 72 hours to remove everything or pay $5,000 a day in fines. Did Karen take the hint? Not a chance. She doubled down, hired the most notorious law firm in the county, paid for by raiding the HOA's emergency fund. The lawyers told her the cold truth: her case was hopeless, and she was risking catastrophic liability for everyone. Their advice: apologize, negotiate, cut your losses. But Karen wouldn't listen. Instead, she started dividing the community, her loyalists against the pragmatists, the frightened middle, stuck in between. That's when I sent my own letter, certified mail. Every house, plain English: continued interference with property rights may result in permanent road closure. The panic was instant. House showings, canceled school buses, rerouted, people genuinely worried they'd lose everything. But Karen, she organized a convoy protest, dozens of cars parading slowly, blocking the road, waving homemade signs. I watched from my kitchen with a camera and a mug of coffee, recording every minute. Karen didn't realize she was handing me the one thing I still needed proof of: organized interference. State law was clear: block a private roadway, and it's felony harassment. After 7 laps, the sheriff arrived. Deputy Miller took one look at the scene, heard Karen's megaphone speech, and promptly arrested her for criminal harassment. Her supporters sat in their cars, stunned, as reality finally started to sink in. With police reports, video, and witness statements in hand, I filed the easement termination paperwork. Monday morning, the access road was officially closed. Pine Valley, for the first time in a century, was cut off from civilization. Karen, out on bail, called a press conference, ranted about economic terrorism and tyranny, but the public wasn't buying it. The real irony: she was the one who turned her community into a prison. But it gets worse, because even after the gates closed, Karen tried to stage a last stand. She and a handful of diehards tried to cut the locks, light a fire at my gatehouse, caught on camera, arrested again, charged with attempted arson. The county attorney slapped them with felonies. The whole neighborhood fell into chaos. House values crashed. People missed work. Medical emergencies got delayed. Karen's stubborn pride had pushed her world right off a cliff. But just when it seemed Pine Valley was doomed, the community finally woke up. Led by Mrs. Collins, a soft-spoken neighbor who'd seen enough, they held a meeting, voted Karen out, and came to my ranch with a handwritten apology signed by every family left standing. Little Tommy Smith, 8 years old, handed me a crayon drawing of the gates open, happy neighbors walking through. I almost lost it right there. They set up a restitution fund, banned Karen from ever holding office again, and rewrote their bylaws so no one could ever wield unchecked power. I agreed to reopen the road cautiously, with new security but with hope. As for Karen, she went to prison for arson, lost her house, her marriage, everything. Her name was wiped from the record, her portrait in the clubhouse replaced with a plaque: "Never again, leadership through service, not control." 6 months later, Pine Valley was thriving. Property values soared the community day. Celebration became a symbol of what they'd survived, and every year kids would perform skits about leadership versus bullying. The gates that once meant conflict now stood for cooperation. Here's what I learned. Power is nothing if it's not grounded in respect. Unchecked authority. It destroys every time. Communities are fragile, built on trust and shattered by pride. If you don't watch your leaders, you'll pay the price. And sometimes the real lesson comes from seeing just how far people will go before they finally admit they're wrong. So what do you think? Where's the line between standing your ground and going too far? Have you ever seen a neighborhood implode because of one person's pride? Drop your own HOA stories below. Let's see whose battle scars run deepest. And if you made it this far, hit that subscribe for more wild tales of justice, karma, and a whole lot of neighborly drama.